because a year ago this time, there were 3 spiritual centers without a minister. The Center for Spiritual Living of Baltimore, the Center for Conscious Living in Eldersburg, and the Center for Spiritual Living Central Maryland. And none of us could have gone forward without a senior minister. So acknowledging that, Reverend Alice Reed from the Reisterstown Center and Reverend Lee Blaisdell from the Laurel Center, Pathways Spiritual Center in Laurel, facilitated a meeting of members of each of those communities. And it was at the Reisterstown Center in right on Main Street in Reisterstown. And we met a couple times, a large group, 20 couple people. And there was also the Center for Spiritual, help me out here.
Spiritual Empowerment Center.
Thank you, Spiritual Empowerment Center from Baltimore City. So there actually were 4 centers at that time. And out of that group, we, there was 10 of us that stuck together, and we have facilitated this process, knowing that we were absolutely going to bring forward the perfect minister. And I cannot, the faith was just there. There was no doubt. And it's absolutely a true expression of what it means to manifest and to be able to treat and move your feet. That's exactly what we have done. So I want to recognize those people because they're the ones that brought right here today. Sue Monahan, stand up because I want everybody to know who's responsible for this. If this goes south, we all go together. Cheryl Schuster from the Center for Conscious Living. Nancy Rosenberg from the Center for Spiritual Living Central Maryland. I'm looking around. Susie Church. Stay standing because we're getting there. From the Center for Conscious Living. Mary Ann Marcellak from the Center for Spiritual Living Baltimore. That was the old center. Leslie Cohen from the Center of Spiritual Living in Central Maryland. Who am I missing?
Queenie.
And Queenie, where are you? I don't see you.
She might do this later.
And Queenie Puryear, our fearless leader.
Robin.
Yes.
There's one more really important person that I think we need to acknowledge because this is the person that kept telling me all along, Reverend Ray was coming here.
And who is that?
Doug.
I have difficulty staying quiet, but I'm trying my best.
So it was collective efforts and ongoing prayers and of these ladies who have brought us to this day. Yes. And the journey's not over. We're meeting Thursday night at my house to continue the path, but we've got, today is paramount and is the day that we've all been waiting for. I told my friends, I said, I felt like last night was like when I was a kid and it was Christmas. I'm serious. I'm like, I'm trying to go to bed. And I'm thinking, I really just want this night to be over so I can get up tomorrow morning for this event. So without any further ado, this is our new senior minister, Dr. Reverend Raymont Anderson.
Hey Ray, you gonna look at us?
Like they're doing the wave. So, I guess I should start us off, since this is going to be home from now on. Anytime I go anywhere else, I have to ask this question a couple of times, but figure if I start us all off on the right path.
We're doing great!
Thank you, Doug. So let's get this one and for all. How is everyone today? Perfect. So today we're going to talk about this very interesting concept of healing, right? Having this consciousness that heals. And I would like us to start off with this idea of, so you have a situation, an experience, something that you're feeling, whether it's an addiction, whether it's the survivor of a something, whether it's whatever it is. You asked for a 1-minute miracle, you got it, healing has occurred. So what's next? Like once you've been healed, once you are no longer bound to the addiction, once you have survived what's next? Because oftentimes we get trapped in this consciousness of healing as an ongoing thing. For example, anybody in here, if you feel so inclined, anybody in here member of AA? So one of the things that is said in AA is, hi, I'm Ray, or whatever your name is, and I am an alcoholic, right? Or if it's NA, or I'm a survivor of, name something that people can be survivors of. Cancer, something else. Abuse,
survivor.
which could be any kind of abuse. Anything else? That's fine, that's fine. Just marinate on it for a second. But at what point do we stop clinging to, because if we're going to talk about the highest form of healing, then the highest form of healing is standing in this consciousness that says, I am, period. Period. I am. Because once you are healed, what's left? What comes next? Now, Reverend Dr. Ken Gordon, sends out these theme concepts of what the July theme is going to be, and he'll do a little 2-minute whatever thing about what it is. And one of the things that he said for today that I love was he said healing comes from an ancient word, ha. Now, the reason I like the idea of healing comes from this idea of ha is because I love to I love to laugh. Which means when I laugh, I am embodying, because I don't laugh. Laughter takes over me. Laughter is laughing itself as me. Which means the energy that is healing health and wholeness of itself, I am possessed by. So if we're going to talk about the highest form of healing, then we have to ask ourselves a couple of questions. There is nothing to be healed, only truth to be revealed. Do we believe this? Now, don't answer. Just think for yourself. Because the thing is, if we say we believe that there is nothing to be healed, then when we go to a practitioner or a minister or a doctor, a physician, an AA meeting, a therapist to be healed, what consciousness is going to these people? Somewhere there has to be a consciousness of somewhere I am lacking, missing something, and I need you, the therapist, the doctor, the minister, the practitioner, to fix it. But once again, ha comes from the root of to be whole. So if I am feeling not whole, not healed, then I am going to someone else with the intention of them completing me. I want them to make me whole, which means I'm going to them not from the highest state of consciousness, but I'm going from a lower state of consciousness. And there is nothing wrong with that. But we must acknowledge that that's where we're coming from. The only way someone can go to an AA meeting, an NA meeting, a therapist, a counselor, a physician, is to acknowledge that there is a pain somewhere that we want to be gone. Now, I don't see very many people out there in the congregation that are this skin tone, so I'm going to educate a couple of the rest of y'all about something that is cultural to this skin tone. There are a lot of people of African American descent who avoid the hospital, avoid the doctor. It is a cultural thing. We won't go to the dentist, even though, like, lizards are falling out of our mouths. Like, we don't, because it's a cultural thing. We are taught. There are other ways you fix it. Pray. Jesus will fix it for you. So we avoid going to the doctor until I can't breathe. So I'm holding my eye. Like, we wait until the last possible moment to go. And yet, even in that, there's this acknowledgement that I've tried to put it back in, and it's not working, so I need you to help me with it. But if we are going to step into this idea of what it means to be whole, not to seek healing, not to want to be healed, but to be whole, from this state of mind that there's nothing missing, we are already whole, perfect, and complete. But there has to be something going on in our consciousness that is not allowing us to believe this. And we have to get really honest with ourselves. And this is one of the most, for me personally, this was one of the most challenging things in order for me to grow and move forward just as a person. We're not even talking about as a practitioner, as a minister. We're talking about me as a person. To get down to brass tacks of, I'm in pain. How do I alleviate this pain? Because what I used to do to alleviate the pain was any form of addiction that there used to be. My addiction of choice wasn't particularly drugs and alcohol, but it was sugar and porn and a whole bunch of other things. Pain. And then you have the pain of PTSD from growing up in an abusive household, an abusive family, etc. Pain. But getting to the point where I say, I know there's something better. Even when the first therapist told me, and I didn't believe her. Second therapist told me, didn't believe her. But she said, just come outside with me for a second. And she encouraged me simply to raise my head and take 3 steps forward. Because this is how I was walking. You know, I was suffering from this thing called depression. And this is... And all she said was straighten your back, raise your head, and take 3 steps. Wow, I feel better. What kind of witchcraft did you just do? But even though I felt better in that moment, guess what I did as soon as the therapy session was over? I went right back. And that's what we do. Because we have this cultural thing that conditions us to avoid healing. Anybody in here watch television? No, I mean like not as a, I watch CNN like you like television. On a given day, you watch at least 2 hours of TV a day at least. I'm not going to judge you. I just raise your hand, be honest. I know there's more of you. Okay, so for those of you who watch it, I'm giving you a homework assignment. For those of you who don't, I'm giving you 2 homework assignments. I want you to watch it just for a day and then do this assignment. Just notice how many television commercials or shows talk about problems. How many pharmaceutical commercials are there talking about Eliquis and Ambien and this and that and this? How many real estate commercials come from the paradigm of what's going wrong with the economy to get you to buy a house? Just observe how much programming goes in to condition us to believe in we are not whole, we are not perfect, we are not complete, that we need this pill, we need this number, we need this person, we need this lawyer, we need this church, we need this something, we need something because it's clearly not us. Just observe. And then the hard work comes in, because then we have to sit down and ask ourselves, for real, what is mine to do in this? Because at the bottom of that, it's how do we live it? Once we get to what the truth is, and the truth can be summed up very simply, you are God. However we choose to, you are that which is, period. God is all there is. We say there is one mind. That mind is God's mind. That mind is, fill in the blanks. That mind is, no. There's one mind. That mind is God's mind. Now describe that mind to me. That mind is
Nature.
Nature, abundant, infinite, love, prosperity, joy, and whole. And that mind is my mind now. There is one mind. And it is all that you just described. And that mind is your mind now. So when the doctor says, well, Ray, You have a herniated disc right here, and that's the source of your pain. And the MRI shows that you have bleeding on the spine, and blah, 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 and it could cause death, and that, and the other, and the other. Which mind hears what the doctor is saying? The mind that knows there is but one mind, and that mind is whole, perfect, and complete? Or the mind that says, wait a minute, I could die? Which mind? And then you go to the GI doctor for a colonoscopy and they tell you, oh, there are no polyps and everything is fine, but apparently from when you were raped there is damage and we need to do surgery. Which mind is hearing that I am whole, perfect, and complete? Or the mind that stresses and worries and fears about? Which mind are we listening from? Which mind are we thinking from? Which mind are we standing upon as the very foundation upon which we live, move, and have our being? Because there's only one, but we believe that there's more than one. Even in such things like spiral dynamics and integral theory, there are levels of spiraling up. And one of the levels here is the vibration of magical thinking. Where because how many practitioners are in the room? Okay, now, you don't have to admit this to yourselves or for yourselves. No confessions right now. But I know you know what I'm going to say. Have you ever known someone who thought, if I don't do the treatment right, if I don't say it in this order, in this way, with this energy, this, or this, it won't work. So it needs to be perfect. It needs to be like a magic spell. If I'm going to fold, okay, so which hand goes on? Should it be this hand and then nod and blink? Is it twinkle the nose from left to right to center? Is it like, what am I supposed to do if I'm supposed to get the magic to well up and heal? Or is it simply knowing? Because Holmes says that the highest form of treatment isn't to say anything. It's to simply know. So as soon as someone comes to you and says, I need help with this, and this, the practitioner simply knows. And so it is. But you didn't say anything. I don't have to. I know. And knowing is enough. If you know the truth will set you free. And the freedom is the freedom to know that you are the I am in expression.
And your thoughts are prayers.
And your thoughts are prayers. Everything that you are thinking. So the real work comes down to, what is it that I am really believing? Because everything that I am doing is based upon a belief. If I am watching the television and I hear something about the politics and the ecosystem and the economy and statistics and this and that, where does my mind go? Do I believe in that? Do I believe in it to the degree that I am now allowing those beliefs to guide and direct and move my feet? Am I allowing the fear to be a lamp unto my feet? Am I allowing worry to be a lamp unto my feet? Am I allowing dread and doubt to be what is guiding me and directing me? Because if I am, then I'm coming from a consciousness that is a lower vibration that is going to continue to outpicture, because those are the seeds that I am planting in consciousness. In essence, what I am doing is, so I come to this place called CSL, Greater Baltimore, and what I know is that we say there is only one power, and that power is God, but I don't know if that power is me, because I don't feel it. But I know it exists. I trust and believe that it exists. And yet, when I watch the news and I hear about this and that and the other, I get fearful of war and terrorism and planes and presidents and stuff, and so it is. And we plant. And we plant. We sow the seeds of fear and worry. So Tracy and I just got back from Pittsburgh yesterday. Went to Pittsburgh Wednesday evening. Was there Wednesday evening, all day Thursday, all day Friday. Came back Saturday morning. We left at 8 because I couldn't take anymore. So 8 was the saturation point, because I know the human part of me generally enough to know I'm getting close to my saturation point. I'm getting close. I've got to go now. And the reason we went was because my brother and I, my brother who's right above me, there's 5 older brothers, right above me, we had to take care of some legal matters because my mother she's recently been diagnosed with dementia. And so we were in the process of getting power of attorney. And this entire process of watching her, speaking to him, speaking to the lawyer, and going through this entirety, what is mine to do? How do I hear what she is saying? How do I hear what the doctor is saying? How do I hear what the lawyer is saying? How do I hear what my brother is saying when every word that is coming out of his mouth is coming from a consciousness of, woe is me, dread, oh no, Chicken Little, the sky is falling. Everything out of his mouth is coming from that consciousness. What is mine to do? A couple of moments in there, Tracy looked at me and she said, breathe, Rev, breathe. Do we need to go for a walk? I already have my sneakers on because I know. Because she knows that one of the things that I have to do, what is mine to do, and one of the ways spiritual practices, because this is how we remind ourselves that we are whole. We align ourselves with spiritual practices. So when I am in the midst of it, whatever it is, whether it's my doctors telling me or her doctors telling us about her, whatever it is, what is mine to do? What is yours to do? Every single one of us has something that we could easily call a need to be healed. But how do we shift the consciousness to say, well, it is an experience that currently I am going through. It is an experience that currently is asking for the balm of love and attention. But that which I am is great, is good. Because when I am great and I am good, then is it not easier to tend to this aspect or part of us that now needs the attention? In much the same way in a plane, when they tell you if the oxygen pressure in the cabin should change, this little bag that looks like it's going to do absolutely nothing is going to fall in front of your face. Trust and believe that if you put it on, you can breathe. Even if the bag doesn't inflate, deflate, you're good. But put it on you first. We cannot tend to another from an empty cup. We have to make sure our cup is full to overflow. To the degree that we can drink from our saucer because the cup runneth over. That is the highest form of healing. That is the highest form of that is to know that we are whole, that we are perfect, that we are complete. The spiritual mind treatment has several different steps. Step number 2, depending on who you talk to. Step number 2, unification. The reminder that God is all there is, and it is right here. Moving in, through, and as me. It has incarnated itself, of itself, right here. And that we are not simply a drop in the ocean. Because that's a consciousness that I hear people reference. Well, we are a drop in the ocean, and when we die, we go back into the ocean and we blend into the nothingness of all this, boop. That's not what the philosophy teaches. That we are the entirety of the ocean in this single drop. And that when we go back into whatever this thing called consciousness is, we retain who we are. We don't lose who we are. And see, when we really get involved in what this philosophy teaches, and Course in Miracles, great, love it, and you know, this other stuff, great, love it, yes. But this philosophy, do we know it strongly enough to practice it to the degree that every word that comes out of our mouths resonates with the vibration of truth? That what I say to people is, when we simply say hello, To the young lady at Target who is ringing up our merchandise, she feels something come through the hello that lets her know that you are different. And that because you know who and what you are, that your hello is reminding her of her magnificence. And she doesn't even know why, but you have left and she feels differently about herself. She now feels, I can go back to school. I can get out of an abusive relationship. I can do. And she has no idea how or why, but you lit the flame. You sparked the bonfire simply by saying hello because you know that every person that sees you and everyone that you see sees the face of God because you know who you are. That every person that you hear and everyone who hears you hears the timbre and tone and resonance of a universe that knows what it is. Simply in that vibration called sound. That every note, every word vibrates with an energy of life, life-affirming and creation. That everyone that you touch and everyone that touches you, and when I say touch, I don't necessarily mean a handshake or a hug. I mean, you go to the store, and some of you have heard me say this before. I'm saying you go to the store, you pick up the Bounty tissue paper and say, I'm going to wait till it goes on sale. You put it down and walk away, but you touched it. It can forever, never go back to the vibration it once was because you touched it. You laid hands on it. In the same way that we read or hear about the power that Yeshua demonstrated when he touched or spoke or looked. You touched it and left. And now the next person that touches it feels the quickening of someone who knows because you left your spiritual fingerprint on it. That everywhere you walk, you leave a wake behind you, a vibration, so that anyone who crosses that step feels whole. They don't need to know how or why. Because many of us, we lit the candles, we talked about coming here, science of mind. We started off Catholic, started off this, started off this, started off that, started off this, but I'm here now. We don't know if we had to explain exactly, well, I really don't know how I ended up. And some of us know, but a lot of us, well, a friend invited, and I don't know what made me say yes, but I said yes, and I came, and my life has never been the same. Imagine what kind of world we bring into being when we know there is nothing that needs to be healed. The only thing that we need to do or know is the truth. Speak the truth. See the truth. Be the truth in expression. That's all we need to know. That's all we need to do. We talk about a world that works for the highest and best of all. But it starts right here. Is my life working for the highest and best of this thing called Ray? Because if it's not, then I've got work to do. And if it is, then what is mine to now do? If I've got fishes and loaves, I can't eat all this, then it is time for me to share it. But if my baskets are empty, and I'm plucking out crumbs and trying to find, then I've got work to do. So the invitation is, how, or where, or what is going on in our belief system that is convincing us, that has mesmerized us, that has deluded us into believing a lie. This is where the hard work comes in. Because sometimes knowing the truth is a painful thing. Sometimes living the truth is a painful thing. So before I close, I'm going to ask, there's a television show called What Would You Do? Anybody seen it?
Love that show.
Have you ever really watched it and thought, is there anybody who has no idea what I'm talking about? Whoa! Homework! So there's a television show, and actually you don't even have to go watch it on TV. You can YouTube it or Google it. But John Quiñones, right? Quiñones.
John.
So, John, look, hey,
It's a
I already told you.
Room, Ray.
Ha ha ha! Ha ha! I'll break into it.
He signed the contract, sorry.
So, television show called What Would You Do? Where they basically set up various scenarios. Restaurants where they'll have mother and father sitting here and they'll berate their children to see what the other patrons in the restaurant will do. Will anyone speak up? Or will people just sit there silently and, what will people do? There was one episode where it was a mother with 2 kids and she's clearly just getting in the car. She's got a beer in her hand and people are walking by like, oh, and some people are taking out their phone and they're filming and whatever. But very few people stopped her. Some did, but very few did. There was one where it was a young lady cutting through a bicycle chain to steal the bike. But because she was so cute, several guys helped her. Even though she told them, they're like, oh, did you lose your key? No, I'm stealing this. Oh, here, let me help you. And I love the show because coming from this teaching, I asked myself, what would I do? What would I do if I knew that my physical death could result? Would I still speak up? Would I still stand in the way? This year, Tracy and I and a couple of our friends were in New York, going through Times Square. It's so crowded, and clearly this woman was a tourist, and she had her purse here, and she had money sticking out of her purse. And this guy is inching closer and inching closer, and he touches it just when I see that that's what he's doing. And I reached out and touched her on the shoulder and said, excuse me. And he gave me this look and faded off into the mists. But what if he had pulled out a gun? Doesn't matter. Because if we are going to stand in truth and speak from truth, then even when a doctor says you've been diagnosed, have the courage